How's it going, guys? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting. Welcome back to the House of Fata Morgana, Requiem for Innocence. So, last time it ended with a kind of a time jump. So, like, we've seen kind of the establishment of Jacopo and Morgana. After they raided the castle, Lord Baroner didn't die. He was, like, kind of kicked out of the castle, effectively forced to flee, and they were able to escape. And so, they settled in. She started living at the brothel. Didn't like it, but she's kind of adjusting, I'm guessing. And instead, it's been 2.5 years, so we know that she ends up living there for about 4 years before things go real downhill there. So we're going to see how this goes, but it'll be interesting to see what has transpired in the past couple of years, how things changed, what's the position of Jacopo and the other, like, people. Because, like, somewhere along the line here, he's gonna, like, I don't know if it was after he lost Morgana, but somewhere he figures out, like, that he can, like, kind of take over the palace itself. So I'm not sure how that's gonna play into things yet, but for now, let's just jump into it. Not really much else to say other than thanks for sticking around. I got some interesting stuff I'm gonna be trying to do on the channel in the near future, so keep an eye out. I'm probably gonna be announcing something new, a new direction, and some new types of stuff to bring up for the channel's sake. Around the anniversary of the channel itself, which is going to be in December. So you'll see a formal announcement coming, but keep that in mind. Anyway, let's jump right into it. There she is. An early summer breeze blew past, rustling vivid green leaves. With the pleasantly warm wind at my back, I entered a graveyard. Anyone who wasn't from around here would probably have thought it nothing more than a curious arrangement of stones on an abandoned plot of land, though. No one knew the names of most of those buried here, and they'd probably died without anyone by their sides. In death, though, they finally found themselves with someone to give them attention, to show them love. Love in the form of a prayer for the repose of their souls. And on this abandoned plot of land knelt the de facto caretaker, a young girl and the only person who paid the dead who laid here any mind. She's too deep in prayer. I guess I'll have to wait. I'd been a little under 2.5 years since I'd rescued Morgana from the Lord's Manor. Much to my chagrin, she was still far from anything that could be described as opening up, but she wasn't quite as distant as before, from my perspective at least. She had stopped calling the girls of the brothel vile and impure, and she was even somewhat conversational. Sometimes. It seemed to me her trauma had loosened its grip on her, if only a little. Of course, she had a tendency to be on the brutally blunt side, which became more obvious as she started talking more. And I felt like the brutal part was getting more prominent every day. Though I suppose it was a good sign. Better than her refusing to interact at all, at least. Yeah, that's fair. Probably. A lot of ifs and buts in this sentences. She had also, most notably, begun showing signs of independence. Burying and sending off the dead who had no family or loved ones to do it for them is one such activity she had taken on. Living in the slums, it was hardly uncommon to see corpses abandoned in alleyways or on the side of the road. Generally speaking, they were tossed off into a ditch somewhere out of the way to rot. But over the past couple of years, that had stopped happening, because Morgana had taken it upon herself to give them proper burials and a gravestone. Nothing fancy, just a plain slab of rock to mark the grave, but it certainly seemed much more respectful than the alternative. Every day she came out of the graveyard to pray for the departed. She had always seemed a bit abnormally pious, but there was something almost frightening about her dedication to the task. She was only 9 years old at the time of the slave riot, which made her 11 now. Wow, she was really young. And rather than play with other children her age, she collected abandoned corpses in the slums and brought them here to bury and pray for. Abnormal didn't even begin to describe it. Some time ago I asked her, "Why don't you go and play out like the other children?" To which she calmly responded, "I could not simply waste my time idly engaging in worldly recreation." I knew that God was the most important figure in her life, but it still seemed excessive. Not even a convent was that draconian. I made numerous attempts to warm her up, but that all fell flat. Nothing I said seemed to make it through that heavy wall she'd built around herself. And that was how Morgana acted around me and the girls of the brothel, those closest to her. Excuse me, the rest of the town could hardly get within shouting distance before being shut out. Although it wasn't like they tried either. Most everyone else actively distanced themselves from her. On some level, they appreciated her taking care of the bodies that showed up, but ultimately to them, she was a little more than a spider that captured more dangerous insects begrudgingly left to its own devices. Hardly anyone found her pleasant, and they didn't hide it either. But not just because of her choice in hobbies. The biggest factor was, of course, "May your soul find eternal peace." The disquieting marks covering her face. "You all done?" "I didn't realize you were there." "Been here for a little while now. You should really pay more attention to your surroundings. This isn't exactly the safest area." "Why bother? No one's going to do anything to me." "Maybe not now, but a few years down the line, that's a whole nother story. Maybe you should get in the habit early. You're a growing girl, and your face could very well be better by then, too." Never mind the fact there are people who will take anything as long as it's got girl parts. What if one of them decides to target you? Appalling. Aren't they? Which is why you should be a little more careful. You aren't appalling, man. Why am I appalling? Because the thought crossed your mind. It did not. I'm just saying, there are people out there who think like that, and you need to look out for yourself. The fact you would say that is all but appalling. It all is appalling. I'm just looking out for you. Oh Lord, may this sinful man be cast down to hell where he belongs. Is that her version of a joke? Jeez, you know no mercy, do you? I feel like you treat those corpses nicer than you do me. You'd be correct. If you want me to be nice to you, go die. Fetch! The girl's got no mercy. Anyway, if you're done praying, get over here. It's ointment time. How many times must I tell you you're wasting your time? Don't be such a pessimist. Rome wasn't built in a day. And there are still other ointments we haven't tried. I'm not being pessimistic. Then unless you want to stay looking like that, what do you have to lose? Now come on, off with the hood. You are a very stubborn man. Pot, kettle. Call me whatever you want. Nothing you say will bother me in the slightest. I loathe you. What? You were saying? Oh, look at that! Look at that cheeky smile. Look at that cheeky smile. You're kidding, right? Partially. You little... I thought you were going to apply the ointment. What are you waiting for? I sighed and gave her a little glower, then scooped up some ointment with my finger. Morgana angled her face toward the floor, closed her eyes, and waited for me to begin. There was an element within the gang that gave me flack all the time for all the time I spent looking after and caring for Morgana. Well, it mostly was just Gratine, actually. If I were you, I would have tossed that ungrateful brat on her butt years ago. Would have been another story if she were a looker, of course. And to a degree, I understood where he was coming from. I certainly would have appreciated a little gratitude. On the other hand, all the time I spent with her, even if it was largely being verbally abused, allowed me to notice the more subtle changes in her mannerisms. And seeing that growth, however small, was the one thing that motivated me to keep at it. For example, a year ago, whenever I went to make physical contact with her, I would have to verbally reassure her I had no intention to do her any harm, or she was likely to start shouting. And even if she didn't, she would sit there the whole time I applied ointment incredibly stiff. Now, she was more relaxed. I could even sense a sort of trust emanating from within her as my fingers rubbed against her skin. It wasn't my imagination. At least, I didn't think it was. It was something only perceptible through the act of making direct physical contact. That said, she still is borderline inscrutable. As I massaged the ointment into her skin, I traced the outline of her face with the flat of my thumb. The vast majority of her face was discolored, and in places patches had festered and fallen off. The skin at the corners of her lips was shriveled and curled up, which could only imagine was fairly painful. It was rough and uneven, hardly a pleasant sensation, and a far cry from clean, smooth skin most girls her age would have. Maybe she's right. You'd think she would show some sign of healing by now if it were ever going to. Despite my constant insistence that she stay optimistic, it was probably me who was most disappointed, most frustrated at the complete lack of improvement. The ointment wasn't cheap, to be sure, but I didn't give a damn about the money. It was more a sense of hopelessness that got me. That was all for nothing. Back when we first took her in, Maria had suggested the marks on Morgana's face might be a manifestation of something psychological or emotional, which I actually would agree with still. And I was beginning to think she was right. That wasn't going to stop me from trying, though. This was the only thing I could think of to do for her. I wonder, what'll she look like when she's all healed? Maybe she'll smile for once. I'd like to see that someday. Hello? Is anyone in there? You need something? Oh, sorry, I got lost in my thoughts. I didn't realize I'd stopped. Lost in your thoughts? That sounds positively dreadful. She's so sarcastic. What's that supposed to mean? I was just thinking about what you... What? Never mind. Finishing that just begged for another round of derision. That's not why I wanted to get your attention either way. What happened there? Where? Your arm. It's cut. Morgana pointed at the gash peeking out from beneath my sleeve. While it wasn't a very deep wound, it was hardly a mere scratch either. Oh, yeah, that's, you know. I decidedly do not know. It's not important. Don't worry about it. She doesn't look very happy. Use that on yourself. Huh? The ointment. Stop washing it, wasting it on my face, which is never going to heal, and use it on yourself. No need to get so worked up about it, Morgana. I am not worked up. I am simply expressing my discontent with your foolishness. Which I'm pretty sure is the definition of being worked up. Regardless, don't use any more ointment on me. Use it on yourself. I'm sure it'll appreciate actually being useful for once. Last I checked, medicine doesn't have feelings. Really, it's not that bad. And besides, I'm not going to get more. only going to go get more, so what's the difference? You're going to get more? And what are you going to do that would make you say that? Yeah, I'm Too sinful to admit it? You're an abhorrent man. No, I swear, it's nothing bad. You win, I'll tell you. God, I was hoping to keep it a secret. I'm doing a little training. Training? Yeah, crime and unrest has been on the rise in the slums. Or, well, not just the slums, the city proper, too. Things were quiet for a while after the slave revolt, but the Lord suddenly imposed a major tax increase about 6 months ago, which has resulted in a significant number of people unable to afford living in the city. To put it simply, the iron fist is squeezing even tighter than ever. And as a result, there's been a huge influx of people into the slums. You know how tight things are already, don't you? What do you suppose happens when you have limited resources, space, and suddenly twice as many people vying for their share? People have started taking to stake out their territory, and they're fighting hard to defend it. People are mugging, robbing each other over scraps. It's a mess. I had no idea. Not many thieves pick makeshift graveyards as their marks, after all. Though, in this case, I actually think your being so isolated is probably to your benefit. But in any event, me and the rest of the gang have formed a band of peacekeepers of sorts. Peacekeepers? Is that not the city guard's job? The guards have never done a darn thing about the slums. Why waste manpower on people who can't even pay their taxes? As far as the Lord and his men are concerned, we're just leeching off the land. We're darn lucky he doesn't make an active effort to chase us all out. That means it's our responsibility to protect ourselves. I see. So you're training to use a sword as part of this band of peacekeepers? In short, yeah. Interesting. Interesting? In what way? Hello? God. She's so haunting. Like, just her character design's so brilliant. There's a reason, I'm captivated by her as much as Jacopo is, honestly. More so, even, maybe. She's such a good character. So interesting. Give me the ointment. Huh? I'm not done with your... What's even left? You've done more than enough. Now give it to me. Here. Roll up your sleeve. You're not gonna put it on me, are you? Like I said, I don't need... How many times have I told you the exact same thing? And how many times have you listened to me? This is payback for all the times you refused to listen to me. You can't argue with that, can you? No, I guess I can't. What are you smirking about? Nothing. Try to keep this sort of thing to a minimum, if you would. Huh? Why would I want to limit my training time? I need to be prepared for what might come our way. That madman of a lord could be scheming and send his soldiers in as we speak. I'm sure there are other more suited for the job. You don't seem like you'd be especially adept with a blade. Hey, don't judge my skill by appearance. I'll have you know, I'm the second strongest member of the gang. Oh yes, that's very reassuring. You're on fire today, huh? Since you seem to have forgotten, I put up a darn decent fight against the Lord during the... God, what is wrong with me? Why am I digging up some sort of her most painful memories for a cheap brag? Anyway, you get the idea. I'm pretty good with the sword, so you don't need to worry about me. I see. And out of curiosity, who is the strongest member? Excuse me? Why would she ask me to my face to give her the name of the one man stronger than me? It's not a difficult question. Gah. Some butthole named Gratine. Interesting. Well, I hope he remains number 1 and you stay number 2 forever. And why exactly would you want that? The whole reason I'm training so hard is so I can surpass Gratine, and she wants me to stay below him? Unbelievable. I get it. It's easy for you to look down on me if there's someone who can put me in my place for you. That isn't why. No? Well then, don't mind telling me why? The strongest member of the group is always the one who stands in the front lines. Well, what's your point? The most qualified person heads the charge. Yes, I don't see anything wrong with that. It puts them at greater risk. Come on. She's actually showing you affection here, bro. Come on, man. Wait, are you? Are you concerned for my safety? It's not you I'm concerned about. Your death would simply make life more difficult for the girls at the brothel. Puh. Well, would you look at that? You, worried about me. I guess even you have a soft spot or two. Oh, for heaven's sake! I already told you, that's not why I'm all done. Thanks. Now, I assume you're finished with your business here, so feel free to make yourself scarce. No need to be so rude. Or do you have some ulterior motive for me wanting me gone? For one, it's impossible for the dead to rest in peace with you around. Maybe try thinking about the living for once? I've never really cared for how much importance people put on showing respect for the dead. It all seems so pointless to me. Your blasphemy knows no end, does it? When your time comes, you're going to find yourself with no one to grieve over your loss. Fine with me. People are only worth their salt when they're alive. And what about the afterlife? Who's got time to think about the next life when you live in an overcrowded slum where someone might kill you one day for a couple coins? All the more reason to take it into consideration. The consequences one's actions have in life and on the next should serve as encourage us all to do what's right. Not sure I buy that. I'm done with this conversation. I don't think there's any getting through that thick skull of yours. If I offended you, I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to. Say, Morgana, would you mind humming that song you're so fond of for me? What? Where did that come from? I'm in a good mood today. And what better way to improve a good day with good music? I do not follow that line of reasoning one bit. Why should I have to sing to make you feel better? What's the big deal? It doesn't hurt anyone. If you have even half a heart, you'll do a little tiny favor for me. Yes, because trying to manipulate me is a wonderful way to make me want to do anything for you. Okay, I'm sorry. That was mean of me. Please? That doesn't sound very sincere. But, fine, I'll do it. Facing away from me, Morgana dropped to the grassy ground, staring off into the distance and beginning to hum. I imagine it's like what the humming in the background, maybe. Was it a hymn or a requiem for the dead, but a folk song a girl's brothel would sometimes sing. No one seemed to know who had written it, though. The lyrics are slightly vulgar, and the people are supposed to clap and hoot along with the music. But Morgana only hummed the melody, leaving the rest of that out. In isolation, and sung with her voice, it became a thing of beauty. It was pure, untainted by the filthiness of the slums, unobscured by the crudeness of the people who normally sang it. In many ways, it was hard to believe they were the same song. This feels like it was hers, like it existed solely to be heard in her voice. Listening to her sing, I sprawled out onto the grass. The blue sky spread out above me as far as the eye could see, and as I gazed up into it, all my problems seemed to fade away. That'd be nice. That I lived in a dirty slum. That the Lord was digging his claws even deeper into the city. That I was in the middle of a makeshift graveyard for those who had no one else. It all just disappeared. I almost felt as though I'd ascended into heaven. The first time I heard Morgana sing was, if memory served, approximately a year earlier. At the time, she was still completely walled off, much like she had been when I first brought her to the slums. She always kept her eyes on her feet, and she spoke in a soft voice, frequently pausing. She was wary of everyone, including me. One day, I went to put ointment on her face, and she shouted, roared practically, for me not to touch her. To be honest, it was somewhat aggravating. Although, I asked about her father, and she just pointed up at the sky, saying, "He's up there," which I took to meant he was dead, so I dropped the subject and got back to applying ointment to her. At some point, I started humming the song, which I had picked up from the girls, and upon hearing that, she told me she was quite fond of it. And then she began singing. Dang. Immediately, I found myself entranced by her voice. Though she always spoke in soft, muffled tones, her singing voice was incredibly clear. Like I was listening to a chorus of angels. Of course, the moment I put that thought into words, it'll lose all its potency. It'll just turn to some loser's cheap pickup line. It really is something, though. If she told me her voice could raise the dead, I would be inclined to believe it. It's just that beautiful. While it was true Morgana could be difficult, it wasn't the most affable. I knew that at heart. She was a sensitive and compassionate girl. That she would come to this graveyard every day and pray for peace for all the forgotten souls was more than enough proof of that. Though she surrounded herself with high walls, she's probably the kindest, most loving person I knew. I know, right? She really is. Gosh darn it. And that was what drew me to her. It didn't matter what anyone said about her, how quickly they were to judge her as ugly or standoffish. I knew they were all wrong. It would be wonderful if I could just spend the rest of my days listening to her sing. Are you asleep? I'm awake. I was just resting my eyes. Oh, and I was about to accuse you of being boorish for having the audacity to ask me to sing and then falling asleep. The fact that you were almost upset seems to suggest you want to be heard, despite how much you protest it. No, I simply... Oh, I've got the perfect idea. We can build a makeshift stage at the pub and have you sing for everyone. What? Don't worry, it'll be fine. You can wear a mask if you don't want anyone to see your face. You don't have to even get on stage if you'd rather not. You can just sing from behind a curtain. Who knows, you could end up being a big hit. Come on, come all, hear the soothing song of the enigmatic siren. Absolutely not. No, I think it's a pretty good idea myself. Oh, is it because you don't like taking other people's money? I wasn't planning on charging. I just thought it would be nice for more people could hear. I already said absolutely not. And if you push the issue any further, I'll never sing for you again. Noted. Forget I said anything. Seemed like a good opportunity to get her interacting with more people, but I guess not. Such a pretty voice wasted just on me. What? You look like you have something else to say. Nope, not a thing. Well, I'm not going to force her if she's opposed to it. Say, Morgana, there's something I've been wondering for a while now. You've never actually called me by my name, have you? And where did that come from? I've just been thinking about it. I can't recall a single time you've done it for more than 2 years that we've known each other. Don't tell me you've forgotten my name. Are you kidding me? I remember it, yes. I don't like the emphasis on remember. Is it really that big of a deal? There's rarely anyone else around, so it's not like you don't know who I'm talking to you. Besides, I'm planning to leave when I get older, so I don't see much point in getting very attached to anyone. Do you have a destination in mind? Not yet. Why are you thinking so far ahead then? You're 11 years old. You still got a few years before you're old enough to be independent. And you're going to spend your whole time keeping everyone at arm's length? I just think maybe it's about time you took down some of those walls. Might take a little weight off your shoulders in the process. I'm not going to say you have to, though. Anyway, I should head out. I've got work to do. Try not to stay here too late, okay? I'll be leaving as soon as you're gone. I could walk you back then. I can make it back fine on my own, thank you. As you wish. Hey, Morgana. I thought you were leaving. One day, I'll show you the world. Do you ever get tired of saying that? You've got to think big. Dream. The world's changing all around us. A life just fighting to make it day to day is hardly a life at all. I don't want to spend the rest of my days confined in this tiny little corner of the world. Well, try not to let your dreams grow so big they crush you. I'm sure I'll be fine. I'll just have you sing for me if I ever get to be overwhelming. Why would I be there? Why wouldn't you? It's hard to show you the world if I don't bring you with me. Knowing you still won't know where you want to go. So I'll bring you with me. We can find a place for you together. Pretty good deal, huh? It's a beautiful dream. I don't need to see the world. All I want is... Huh? What was that? Nothing. Now I'm even more curious. It's nothing, really. Now go, shoo. Fine. See you later. Dang. That was like so much. And then her thoughts. Doesn't he ever get tired of chasing me down day after day? I thought as I watched him walk off. Quite honestly, I don't understand that man one bit. Apparently, a lot of people respect him, and he seems to have a fairly large social circle as well. I couldn't fathom why someone like him would go out of their way to spend time with me. It wasn't for lack of people to talk to, and it certainly wasn't because we got along. Never mind my face, which couldn't be pleasant for anyone to be subject to for any amount of time. Would he go so far for simple pity? Hopefully he doesn't have ulterior motives. At long last, your face is healed. I spent enough money on you to build a house, and you're going to pay me back tenfold. Now go forth, Morgana, work! Be the greatest whore the brothel has ever seen. Oh. He's probably not that devious. Enough foolish speculation. It's going to start getting dark soon. I should head back. The brothel was always rather quiet for this time of day. The girls worked at night, so they were generally asleep while the sun was out, and it was my job to take care of cleaning, laundry, and preparing meals while they rested. When I first arrived here, everything seemed so filthy, and while I still felt that way to a degree, nights when they were out for business were still miserable. I wasn't quite so prejudiced against the girls themselves anymore. They were kind to me, treated me like a sister, or tried to at least. I kept them at a distance, though. I didn't so overtly spurn them as I had before, but as a holy daughter of God, I could not form familiar relationships with prostitutes. I could not delight in being pampered by them. My unwillingness to open up probably disheartened them, but still they did not throw me out or lash back at me for it. And no one made any remarks about my face. As prostitutes, they frequently caught all sorts of diseases. In more than 2 years here, several had even passed away. One had gotten hives all over her body, transforming from fairly pretty to absolutely hideous in only a few days' time. I think that was either lover's pox or it could have been smallpox, but smallpox would have been super contagious. Lover's pox is most likely. It's just a really horrific STD. I don't even know if it's still around. That might have been cleared, like it might have been like done away with as far as I know, or maybe it just has a different name, I don't know. And they had seen considerably more of me, so I had no reason to comment on a girl with little excuse me, with a little missing flesh missing from her face, which wasn't to say everyone was sympathetic for me. I should get a fire started. I had taken care of most of the cleaning before leaving for the cemetery, so my next task was preparing food for the day. Supplies had been scant of late, which meant today I was making yet another watery vegetable soup. Oh right, you mentioned crime was on the rise. That would explain the trouble getting supplies. And here I am, completely oblivious to what's going on outside. From time to time, I would catch one of the girls saying, oft with an uncomfortable laugh, "She's still the same old Morgana." But personally, I felt as though I had changed quite a bit since arriving here. No longer being intrinsically disgusted by prostitutes was big enough, but even more significantly, how pathetic. I'd become astutely aware of how much I was on the receiving end of others' generosity. Before coming here, the thought would have never occurred to me. I was always a giver of generosity. The saint everyone, man, woman, and child alike, came to for help. I hadn't told anyone what I was, though, so I didn't get any of the special treatment. And perhaps that was part of what had allowed me to change. Of course, because I kept all that tightly locked up inside, the only thing people saw was an aloof little girl. Finally, the coal's lit. Now to add tinder. So that's like a knock. So there we go. Add some good sound effects for you. What? Huh? What? Who's there? And who shouts knock knock instead of knocking? Oh, that's them shouting, actually. Knock knock! Everyone else is asleep, so I can only hope it's someone else to deal with it. Or someone's gonna wake up eventually if she keeps yelling. Oh, it's a girl, too. But everyone's exhausted and they need their rest. Knock knock knock! Oh, for heaven's sake, quiet out there. Oh my gosh. You look familiar. Why? Why do you look familiar? Ah, finally someone. Ah! Oh, what? Why are you screaming for? Ah, are you okay? Huh? Why wouldn't I be? I'm rather more concerned about you, myself. Your face! Look at your face! Ah, right. My face. It's just... I heard they treated the girls good here. You can't be, what, maybe 10 years old? And look at you. Huh? Unbelievable. What kind of terrible man would would bleep a little girl like you and then make you bleep it, and all the nasty diseases? Does she think I'm a prostitute? Hold on, please. You're jumping to conclusions. Don't you worry. You've got a friend in me. No, that's not what... There's still hope. Tomorrow will be a better day. I'm not... Ah, I see. It's not cause of the disease, then? Yes, thank you. Finally. No one gave me any disease. You're being tortured! What? Now I get a close look at you. Your hands are all torn up, too. Did they really bust a whip out here that often? No one God, I can't believe my eyes. Who would do this to such a little girl? Excuse me? I'll have to give that man in charge a stern talking to. It's his job to protect his girls. Excuse me. Knock, knock, knock! Shut up and listen to me. Ouch! I didn't mean to do that. Oh, Father, I pray your forgiveness. I have disobeyed your teaching to raise my hand against my fellow man. Nothing for me. The one who's actually got kicked? Amen. Before you do anything, could you perhaps introduce yourself? Who on earth is this girl? She's kind of funny. That's what I get for jumping to conclusions. I've always had the super bad habit of letting my imagination run wild, you see. soon as I saw you, I was like in dark dungeons. A little girl hung upside down, buck naked, and a big, smirking, shirtless man holding a cat of nine tails. The girl screams echo off the cold stone. Will she live to see another day? That sort of thing. It keeps going. It keeps going, too. Next, a dashing young man appears to rescue the girl, but he's secretly... Shut your mouth for me, would you? Aye, aye. You're allowed to breathe. Blah. God, this girl. Okay. If any of you have seen Love is War, she's giving me some Chica vibes. Okay, so what was your name? Ceren, spelled C-E-R-E-N. That's... Oh, so this is where I'm bad at French words. That's Je, like jester, and Ran, like ransom. Thank you, developers. So it looks like Ceren, but it's pronounced. I'm gonna really forget this, so please forgive me. But it's Jiran. Shut your mouth for me, would you? Aye. But you are allowed to breathe. Aye. Gosh, way too early for this. What's it like? Noon? 1? Should I not have let her in? Oh, nah, you're fine. I've known we were getting a new girl for a few days now. Well, I sure wasn't expecting this. You don't have to keep your mouth shut permanently. You just have something to say, spit it out. So this is the part where I get fired before I even start? Tell me something, would ya? Do you act that way around your clients? What? Is there something wrong with how I act? Moving on. Stand right there for me. As for the love of all that's holy, hold still. Yes'm. So what you gonna do? Just hush and hold still. Huh? What is happening here? What's happening here? Is she just getting like a physical, I guess? You're staring holes through me. Just a little more. You're getting up real close and personal there. Yeah, that's what she says. It's like, that's good for the thumbnail, I think. Need to make sure you're up to par. Par with what? Is this necessary? Hello? Alright, at ease. You pass, you're hired. Really? Sweet. So what was that all about? You gotta have an exam first, obviously. I see. I'll tell you this though. If you weren't cute as hell, I would have thrown you right on your butt. Am I really that cute? Like, I like how not fazed by the throwing out. Oh, you're making me blush. You realize that wasn't a compliment, right? Anyway, you start work tomorrow. Today, familiarize yourself with the rules and layout of the place. Aye, ma'am. Morgana, can I ask you to show her around? What? Alright. Thanks a bunch. Much obliged. I'm already beginning to regret this. Talk about a culture shock, though. I've never seen a place with a woman manager. Oh yeah, I'm not the manager. Just an old hat. So who's the big boss hiding then? No boss here, just us girls. What? You don't have a manager? Really? Nope. You'll find it's more like a community than anything. A bunch of girls with nowhere else to go banded together and built up a place. And it's been going like that for more than a decade now. From what I've been told, it started just a little shack. Didn't even have a proper flooring. By the time I showed up, the facilities were a little nicer. The roof still leaks a bit, though, and we don't have nearly as many rooms as we do now. But we worked our tails over the years, scrounging together money and time to patch the place up to grow to what you see now. Huh. Neato. Of course, not having someone specifically in charge of running the place does come with its own set of challenges. Does it? Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. Everyone gets to do their own thing. It's not that simple, unfortunately. Makes it more difficult to iron things out in the community and other business when trouble arises. And of course it means we have no one financing us. So every day is a struggle to make it to the next. Any day could be our last and it all could come crashing down. Toss in any illusions of job security. Not so neato. I'm still super duper impressed though. Major props. You guys made one heck of a place in the slums. Yeah, I suppose. I'll take that, I guess. You don't sound very happy about it. Well, I mean, pretty much everyone who founded the place is dead now. It's one of the risks of the job. You work your butt off to add another day and end up 3 off in the process. So once you got enough to do whatever it is you need to do, you walk out the door and never come back. Got it? Whether you've got debt to pay off or friends or family need a little extra money, once you're done, be done. You're not gonna ask what I need the money for? If a girl looks like trouble, I'll take her and have some guys look into it. But you don't strike me as the type. If you were up to no good, I feel like it'd be pretty obvious. Besides, I've been in this business long enough to know that's not at the top of most girls' dream job lists. Most of us have been through some nasty crap, but we don't come here to have other people digging around through it. Boss. Huh? Boss? Well, what? You're sweet, thoughtful, and hecka boss. So I'm calling you boss. It's perfect. I was told we don't have a boss here. Boss! Oh gosh. I don't know how many you taking a liking to me, I guess. Anyway, I'm gonna go crash again. Morgana can answer any questions you got. Aye. Also. Any more hollering while I'm trying to sleep and I'll rip that pretty little head off your shoulders and shove it between your legs, got it? Yes, boss. Boy, is she a character. Alright, Morgana, lead the way. Sure. Before we go, though, I have a question. Are you incapable of speaking like a human being? What do you mean? Does it really require explanation? Oh, I get it. We're friends now, so I don't have to talk so stiff-like. You call that stiff? I like her shocked face there. Yeah, why? To tell you the truth, I kind of forgot to talk casual. Guess that's just what happens when everyone around you's big cheese. I'm very respectful of my seniors, I'll have you know. This conversation's going nowhere, so let's go. Hi! So, you got here a couple years back? Neat. You gonna start working here once your face all clears up? I have no intention of becoming a prostitute, no. And Maria has already said she will respect that. Instead, I'm tasked with other chores, such as cooking and cleaning, in order to earn my keep. Uh-huh. Maria's even more generous than I thought. Generous? Most places wouldn't look after a sick girl for that long, let alone give her room and for her own and buy her ointment. The ointment is his doing, technically speaking, but I suppose she's right. You're right. I've begun to feel the same way recently. Taking care of a few chores cannot possibly counterbalance the burden being placed on everyone here. They would certainly all be better off without me. What? That's not what I mean at all. Sure, maybe it don't balance out. They're all letting you stay on account of kindness of their hearts. But that don't mean you're better off elsewhere. That you're not pulling your weight. You've been here for what, an hour? How can you possibly know? Just look at this place. It's better looking in a lot of places outside the slums. And it's you who's been keeping it so clean, Morgana. The last place I was at was dirtier than a bear's bumhole. But this is like heaven compared to that. Without you around, Morgana, the girls wouldn't be able to sleep so comfortably. Perhaps. Ah, are you blushing? You're blushing, aren't you? It's nothing to be ashamed of. You can even jump into my arms if you want. I do like how she's just full, like, embraced Morgana. You know, like, she was freaked out at first, but now she's just like, oh yeah, I'll just accept you for who you are. I like that a lot. You know. You're incredibly obnoxious. My heart. For a second there, she almost had me feeling a little bit better about myself. Now I right out the window. So you came here a couple years back. How That would have been right around when the Lord's slave revolted, yeah? Yes, right about then. I wish I could have been there for it. I bet it was all sorts of crazy. You mean you weren't around when it happened? Nope. I wasn't in these parts till about over a year or so ago. So I've only heard the stories. Back when the uprising happened, I wasn't even in this country. I was way, way far away. I see. So you only moved here recently then? Nah, I didn't move. I was kidnapped. What? I'm a bit of an airhead if you haven't noticed. One day I just suddenly was taken captive and then off I got sold. What? Really? Yep. She was taken captive and sold off. I didn't mishear her, did I? You talk about it like it's just part of your daily routine. Well, it is the second time it's happened. It is? Okay, back to the tour then, shall we? What? That raises even more questions. Yeah. Whew. My throat's having trouble with these voices. Okay. I think I'm gonna go ahead and stop here. It's not the best place to end, but like doing both their voices is actually draining me pretty good. And I'm starting to blend them, and like I think it's also just been long enough anyway, so we're gonna stop it here. What an episode! I loved seeing the Jacopo and Morgana, like the relationship, and like seeing Morgana like coming out of her shell. She definitely is. But look how much she's talking here. It's amazing how much she's ended up talking with Jess. Gosh darn it! It was Jazz and Jester, and Ran, right? Maybe I can check it. So you guys can't see this, I think, because we're on the end screen, but like I'm scrolling up to the backlog just to see if I can get it right. But no, she's been so fun. Like, she's crazy and an airhead, but I do think it's pretty funny. Growing up, and she's talked a lot. Okay, Jia like Jester and Ran like Ransom. So Jeran. I'll have to keep that in mind. Anyway, so Jeran's a really interesting character. I can see, unfortunately, I wonder if it's her that ends up inadvertently bringing the disaster up on the brothel. That would be really sad. Like if people came looking for her, but we'll have to see. Anyway, Morgana's like actually talking more. She's helping out. She's doing a lot of good progress. It's really neat to see. So I'm curious to see how this all is going to play out. I'm guessing after we get this part, we're going to see Jacopo and maybe Gratine more. See what they're up to with the peacekeeping initiative and all that. But all that's gonna have to come out for next week. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to the patrons who have been like so supportive and awesome. I've got some spicy stuff to talk to you guys about in the upcoming patron cast, which should be coming out. I'm gonna probably record that this weekend, so keep an eye out for that. So that should be a lot of fun. Otherwise, I'm excited to be able to share more stuff with you. Thank you for all of you who are sticking around and watching this. Like everything you do, watching, liking, commenting, like all of it makes a big difference on the channel and helps, you know, fight the algorithm and all that. So thank you for every little bit you offer and are willing to give. I appreciate everything you've been doing and spending your time with. I hope you enjoyed this. And until the next episode of Watching Me Up or see me in next, I'll see you there.